You clicked on this video because you want the truth about fasting and belly fat. Not another guess, not another guru's opinion. The actual truth. Here it is. Fasting can reduce the fat wrapped around your organs. That part is real, but almost everything else you've been told about how it works is either exaggerated, oversimplified, or flat out wrong. There is no magic hour when fat suddenly unlocks. There is no rule that carbs are poisonous, and one recent, rigorously controlled study found something that most fasting videos will never tell you, a finding that should have gone viral but didn't. Today we're separating what's actually been measured in a lab from what just sounds good on camera. Every number in this video is backed by a named, published study, and you'll find every single one of them listed at the end. Place your hand over your stomach. What you can pinch is mostly subcutaneous fat. It sits beneath the skin, cushioning and insulating you. But deeper in your abdominal cavity, there's a different kind of fat entirely. Visceral fat. It wraps around your liver, your pancreas, your intestines. You cannot grab it. You may not even know how much you're carrying. Unlike the fat under your skin, visceral fat behaves as biologically active tissue, releasing signals that are more strongly linked to insulin resistance, fatty liver, and cardiovascular strain, simply because of where it sits and what it's positioned against. This isn't a design flaw. Fat storage is a survival system that helped humans endure entire seasons without food. The problem starts when a system built for temporary storage never gets a chance to empty, and the hormone in charge of whether that vault opens or stays shut is one you already know: insulin. Every time you eat, insulin rises to help move that fuel where it's needed. It isn't a villain, it's a messenger. But while insulin is elevated, the release of stored fat slows. As hours pass without eating, insulin gradually falls, and the release of stored fat gradually rises. There's no dramatic switch. It's a slow dial, not a light switch. You've probably heard fasting compared to a fridge and a freezer, the fridge being quick access sugars stored in your liver, the freezer being deep stored body fat. It's a useful picture, but most viral fasting videos push it too far, claiming you burn zero fat until the fridge is completely empty. That's not accurate. Your body blends fuels constantly, even in the first several hours of a fast. Some fat is already being used. As glycogen runs lower, the proportion of energy coming from fat gradually increases. So what actually happens to your metabolism once the fridge starts running low? Here's where common assumption and controlled science go in opposite directions. Most people believe that not eating triggers starvation mode, a crashing metabolism that clings to every calorie, but that claim has actually been tested directly. In a controlled study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, researchers measured resting energy expenditure in healthy adults across an 84-hour fast. By day 3, resting energy expenditure hadn't dropped. It had risen by roughly 14%, driven by a sharp increase in norepinephrine, not insulin. Your body isn't shutting down. In short-term fasting, it's doing something closer to revving up, mobilizing stress hormones that push you to act, not to collapse. That word, short-term, matters. This response is specific to fasts measured in hours and single days. Chronic, prolonged calorie cutting over weeks and months is an entirely different physiological state, and it can genuinely slow metabolism. The two get confused constantly. They are not the same thing. The next fear is almost universal. If I stop eating, won't my body eat my own muscle? During fasting, growth hormone secretion rises. Two separate lines of controlled research confirm this. A classic study found a roughly 4-fold increase in 24-hour growth hormone production after just 2 days without food, and a broader synthesis of trials found fasting increases growth hormone output by 3 to 5 times within the first 24 hours, intensifying further the longer a fast continues. Growth hormone's role here is to help shift the body's fuel preference toward fat and away from breaking down muscle tissue for energy. This is a real measured hormonal response, not a guarantee that you'll keep every pound of muscle no matter what you do. If you fast without adequate protein or without any resistance training, muscle loss is still possible. The hormone response tilts the odds in your favor. It doesn't override poor habits entirely. Now the central question, does fasting specifically target belly fat? Not exactly. And here's where honesty matters more than hype. You cannot command your body to burn fat from one chosen location. Visceral fat does appear to be more metabolically responsive than subcutaneous fat, due to differences in its hormone receptor makeup. which is part of why waist circumference and internal fat can improve even before visible changes appear elsewhere. But the actual data on how much fasting alone accomplishes is more modest than most content admits. In 2025, one of the most rigorous trials on this exact question was published in Nature Medicine. Researchers randomly assigned 197 adults with overweight or obesity into groups, standard Mediterranean diet guidance alone, or that same guidance combined with an 8-hour time-restricted eating window, tested in early day, late day, and self-selected timing. The result, adding the fasting window, produced no statistically significant additional reduction in visceral fat compared to the Mediterranean diet guidance alone. Not a small win, not a modest win, no measurable extra benefit from the fasting window itself in this trial. That's the finding most fasting content will never show you, because it complicates the sales pitch. But this is what real controlled science looks like. It doesn't mean fasting is useless. It means the clock is not doing the work by itself. If the fasting window alone doesn't guarantee extra fat loss, why do so many people genuinely succeed with it? For most, fasting solves a behavioral problem, not just a biochemical one. It removes decision points. No late-night snacking, no mindless grazing, no calorie-dense drink disguised as a treat. Instead of needing 10 good food decisions a day, you might only need 2 or 3. A large 2025 systematic review and network meta-analysis in the BMJ, covering 99 randomized trials and over 6,500 adults, found that intermittent fasting strategies produced weight loss broadly comparable to standard continuous calorie restriction. The one exception, alternate day fasting, showed a modest but statistically real edge over continuous restriction, about 1.29 kilograms greater weight loss on average. In plain terms, fasting is a genuinely effective structure for controlling intake. It is not a metabolic loophole that burns fat faster than an equivalent calorie deficit achieved any other way, with alternate day fasting being the one modality where the evidence shows a small real advantage. But there's one finding that stands apart from everything else in this video, and it's the strongest, most specific result in the entire body of research. A controlled trial published in the journal Obesity compared 2 groups matched for identical total weekly calories. One followed a standard heart-healthy, continuously calorie-restricted diet. The other combined fasting with what researchers call protein pacing, 4 to 6 meals a day, each built around a solid portion of protein, exceeding 30% of daily calories. Over 8 weeks, the calorie-restricted group lost 14% of their visceral fat. The fasting plus protein pacing group lost 33%, more than double, while also preserving significantly more lean muscle and reporting less hunger. Same total calories, same deficit, more than double the visceral fat loss. This is the piece nearly every fasting video skips entirely. It was never really about the clock. It was about what happened inside the eating window. So, practically, what does an evidence-aligned approach actually look like? Don't start with a 24-hour fast. Start with structure. Week 1, a 12-hour overnight fast. Dinner at 7, breakfast at 7. If energy and training stay stable, move to 14 hours. Only then consider 16, choosing a window you can actually sustain over one you abandon in a week. Inside that eating window, build meals around protein, eggs, fish, chicken, lean meat, yogurt, legumes, tofu, or paneer, aiming for several servings spread across the window rather than one enormous meal. Add vegetables, fruit, and healthy fats. Pair it with resistance training 2 to 4 times a week. This matters more than most people assume. The hormonal response to fasting protects muscle tendency, but resistance training is what actually gives your body a reason to keep it. And then there's autophagy, the cellular recycling process fasting content loves to invoke. It's real. In 2016, Yoshinori Ohsumi won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for discovering the mechanisms behind it, how cells break down and recycle their own damaged components. Fasting does appear to influence this process, but human science cannot yet place a precise stopwatch on it and declare it activates at hour 16. That specific claim, repeated constantly in fasting content, outruns what's actually been measured in humans. Intellectual honesty matters more here than a satisfying number. And this needs to be said plainly as part of stewarding this topic well. Children and teenagers need consistent nutrition for growth. Pregnant and breastfeeding women need individualized guidance. Anyone with a history of disordered eating should generally avoid restrictive fasting patterns. And anyone on insulin or blood sugar lowering medication should never begin fasting without medical supervision. Discipline listens to wisdom. It doesn't compete with the clearest warning signs. So here's the honest final picture. Fasting can genuinely help reduce the fat around your organs, but the mechanism was never a magic hour, and it was never the clock working alone. It's built from repeated decisions, a long enough stretch without incoming fuel, protein that protects muscle, movement that demands stored energy, and enough patience to let the body respond on its own timeline. Long before this had a name like metabolic switching, God's people already understood something like it. Daniel requested simple food over a king's rich table, and scripture records that afterward he and his companions looked healthier than those who ate freely. Jesus withdrew into the wilderness and fasted 40 days, not as a health strategy, but as an act of dependence on God over the body's demands. Paul wrote of disciplining his own body so it would serve his purpose, not dictate it. Self-control itself is named as fruit of the Spirit, evidence of a life shaped by God, not gritted through by willpower alone. This was never about punishing the flesh because you dislike your reflection. It's about governing your appetites instead of being governed by them. Your body is not an idol to worship, and it isn't an enemy to fight. It's a temporary gift, a living temple, and the more honestly the science is told, the more clearly you can see the order built into it on purpose. But knowing the mechanism is only half the picture. What you actually eat the moment your fasting window ends can either protect everything you just built or quietly erase it. That's exactly what we're covering next.